everyone. Welcome to the Safe Kids Now show. I am excited to be here and have a chance to talk to a former police chief from Oakland, California. His name is Howard Jordan, and he's now a consultant and a licensed private investigator. Over the years, he's developed comprehensive school site safety plans, which have included active shooter training, and also he's developed community policing partnerships with residents in Oakland, California, and worked with nonprofits to help at-risk youth. He's spearheaded Operation Ceasefire, which reduced serious violence in cities across the United States. I am so excited to welcome him to our Safe Kids Now show today. So welcome, Howard Jordan. Okay, there you are.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good to be here.
Good to, where's your picture on my thing here? Okay. All right. Well, first, I have to start with something that is really probably in everybody's mind, and that is the defund the police. What's happened over the last year or year and a half or 2 years, we have seen an increase in defunding the police. It's starting to wane a bit, I hope, and I'm just trying to figure out, why this has happened, and what do you think is going on today in some of our cities in America?
Well, let me just first start by saying I think that the idea of holding police officers accountable, which I think was the genesis for this terminology being used of defunding the police, has sort of got spiral out of control. This effort to hold police accountable is needed. It is much appreciated by the public. As a former police chief and police officer of 25 years in the profession, and having been retired for 8 years and still hanging around police departments, I think that to hold police officers accountable is a detriment to public. However, I think that with the efforts to hold the police department came this notion that if you took resources away, including money, an opportunity to provide resources for the community, whether it's through community policing efforts, working with schools and kids, that somehow that is going to lead to better police accountability. And I don't find that at all very plausible. I think that in an effort to do that, some have now that have done that, or started to do that either fully or partially, are now beginning to see the negative impacts of not providing the police departments with the sufficient resources to solve crime, to prevent crime, and to also make the cities the cities safe. If you look at what was happening in Minneapolis, right? They where Derek Chauvin killed George Floyd. You saw where the city couldn't pass a ballot measure last week that wanted to touch the police department and turn the policing in that city to a different entity. Here in the Bay Area, in California, East Bay in particular, Oakland, there were efforts to defund the police, which didn't pass. The mayor, thankfully, she in her budget, she actually funded the police so they can provide more resources. She got a lot of negative feedback for that. But I can see from talking to people in the streets, family members that live in these areas that are most impacted by crime, they do not want the police to go away. In fact, they want the police there. They want them to work better with the community, and they need and they appreciate the police and what they're doing. So I think there's a serious disconnect between some of the politics and the optics of the police who actually are impacted and who want the police there. So, that is just something that I think needs to be recognized, and maybe find a happy medium where in some cities that I've worked with, where the city has diverted funds away from certain police functions, and the police rightfully have looked at the calls for service and that they provide, and have come up with a number of calls. They don't really need the police to come to, right? Something that is, should be handled by, you don't need a badge and a uniform. For example, dealing with mental health, people in mental health crisis, dealing with the homeless, dealing with kids who are not doing what they're supposed to do in school, right? That is not a police function. Parents who are unable to control their kids at home, right? That is something that should be deferred to some social service agency that deals with them, that are more prepared and have wraparound services to provide to these families. The police go to these calls, they're not really equipped to deal with them, because those problems I just mentioned require long-term solutions. Follow-up, and all those things. You get an officer that handles a call at someone's house because their kids not doing their homework or they're out running around late. That happens again, the chances are that officer's not going to come back. You got a new officer, then you got to start all over again, right? So there's no relationship there. But if you have one person dealing with that, one non-police person, that person can devote time to help the parents manage their kids and provide them with resources, whether it's counseling or other things like that, so they can help them better parent their kids better.
You make such an important point, because yes, there are a lot of calls that police officers get that they really shouldn't, they can't do much about it. Most people don't understand that police react to crime, and citizen involvement prevents crime from happening in the first place. My listeners know that I'm a crime and violence prevention consultant for many, many years. And one of the things, and I'd like your opinion on this, I would advocate for is neighborhood safety experts who are citizen people right out of the community, that look like the community, that speak the language of the community, and that they help bring neighbors together and maybe identify those problems between what the police need to come to and what somebody else needs to come in. What do you think of the idea of neighborhood safety experts?
I think it's a great idea. Community policing is based on, neighbors taking ownership of the problem and coming up with their own solutions to solve the problems in partnership with other agencies, not necessarily the police, or so on and so forth. When you have community members actively involved in trying to resolve problems in the neighborhood, you get better results because they are invested. They live there. They see this stuff every day. And I can tell you that, in my travels in Oakland and other places, my wife's family lives in Oakland, and it's not all of them live in this neighborhood. So I've seen my share of different things from a police perspective and a citizen's perspective, and I always sort of look at, in certain communities, certain things are accepted, right? So if you have, like, for example, my mother-in-law lives in an area where I remember years ago where I came to visit her, and there was a couple of guys sitting on her front porch, and she lives on a busy street, and I'm like, hey, I didn't say anything to them. I kind of walked past them, but I went and checked my mother-in-law. I said, hey, what are these guys? Do you know them? Why are you letting? She goes, well, I don't know them, but they're not bothering me, so it's not a big deal. And the policeman in me wanted to move them along because they were loitering on her property, but she didn't want to do that because that was, to her, it wasn't a big deal. It was acceptable and it was fine. Now, in about a mile or two away from there, those were sitting in some other person's neighborhood in front of their driveway or whatever, they would have called the police on them and they would have been gone, right? So, it depends really on what they consider acceptable, what's not, right? And so, the police have to also recognize that, it's not, what we policemen think are problems, it's really not. It's what the community sees as their problem
Right.
that we should be working on, right? So
Absolutely.
that's where the community comes in and has to take ownership and do follow through and be proactive in terms of helping. Now, part of that too, Stephanie, comes with the citizens have to feel like they can trust the police, right?
Yes.
So, and the police have to feel like they can trust citizens. So it has to work both ways. Citizens getting involved in crime and fighting and being proactive will not happen until there's trust between the police and the community. And that's one of the things
Absolutely.
we have to work on, is to build trust so that people can, feel comfortable working together with the police.
I might mention that quite a few years ago, a group of citizens, there were about 8 of us that had been working in our communities on community crime prevention. And we put a grant together, and we formed the Citizens Crime Prevention Committee for Contra Costa County.
Hmm.
And we organized 27 committees, crime prevention committees in 27 different cities in Contra Costa County at that time. And we were building trust, and we had an office, and this is where citizens took the responsibility of organizing to work with police, not for police, but with the police. And we had police and citizen meetings together. We had people sharing ideas. We had amazing response. At first, the police departments were not very accepting, because we were told that we would, start some vigilante groups, but that's not what happened at all. What we were doing was really building relationships. And I think that's the important part of building a community around the police department and around citizen groups, and getting people involved, and so they learned what their responsibility was. What do you think about that idea?
I think it's a great idea. Forming groups, working together. There's strength in numbers, right? So whenever there is a group of people coming together to for a common cause, whether large or small, I think it helps. My wife and I, we've been living in our neighborhood for, gosh, almost 15, 16 years, and every year, sometimes twice a year, we throw a big block party. We just had one a couple of weeks ago,
Right.
and that is to just know each other, get to know each other, so when something happens, your neighbor is your closest ally.
Mhm.
If you're,
Right.
if that relatives may get here, my family from Oklahoma will get here, but folks in New York will be here later. But immediately, that's the people you depend on, and it's good to know them and get that stuff. So
Well, I think a block party or any social event can really bring neighbors together, because if you've got a real problem, the people that are right there are going to be there first for you. And sometimes the police, it takes a while, and especially in these cities where they're thinking about defunding the police, or they have defunded the police, the people you can rely on to give you some sort of help are your neighbors. So, well, tell me about what you're doing today in your work, because I know you've gone on to be a consultant in investigation, and tell us a little bit about that.
So after I retired in 2013, I was offered a number of jobs to do different things, law enforcement agencies, but I chose to go back to work full time for any particular department, because I felt like I had so much to offer that I kind of want choose what I wanted to do. So I started my consulting and investigations business, and my primary goal, service that I provide is, as a consultant, I help departments to navigate through a lot of risk management issues, whether it's use of force incidents, connecting with the community, investigating uh, officer complaints. I serve as a national expert in use of force incidents. I also do personnel complaints. So I do workplace harassment complaints, sexual harassment complaints, any kind of police misconduct cases. I handle those. I also do not recruiting, but I do background investigations for executive positions. So police chiefs, deputies, fire chiefs. So I sort of dabble in a lot of different things, but my main service is consulting other than handling personnel complaints.
Sounds like you're a busy man.
Yes. For Kyrie, yes.
Well, I'm going to take a short break. When we come back, I'd like to ask you about your work with at-risk youth. So let's take a break right now, and we'll be right back.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at AAU Media, and visit our website, www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio.
Okay, we're back. And Chief Jordan, I know in the past that you have worked with at-risk youth. And tell us about that and what you were doing to help these kids, because this is a big problem today.
Yeah, so throughout my career, I have worked closely with nonprofit organizations to help at-risk youth get over some of the challenges. Says my internet is freezing up. I don't know why, but I just turn my phone off. Maybe. Turn my phone off. Maybe that will help.
Did it clear up? Let's see.
I don't know.
We can hear you.
Okay.
Shavana, do we have a picture here?
Says keep talking, so I guess we'll just keep talking. So anyway,
Okay.
My experience that a lot of these at-risk youth only come into contact with the police maybe once in their entire life, and then what they do from there could help shape the way that the direction that they go. So it's important that we as adults, not just police officers, but adults, parents, teachers, coaches, pastors, get involved in early on, right? Whether it's through school, through the rec center, through church, through sports, something to help these kids divert them away from a path of crime and punishment.
Right.
One of my jobs that I work with the Alameda County Probation Department, which manages all the juvenile justice system. So I get to see a lot of these kids, unfortunately, after they've been incarcerated for different reasons. And when I talk to them, it's the common thread is that a lot of them have the opportunities that most deserve, right? They come from single parents. The father is not normally in their lives, so they lack some kind of male parental guidance. There's a huge need for that. One of the programs that I always felt was important and has been very successful over the years is the Police Activities League, right? And the Boys and Girls Club here in the Bay Area, which has been very instrumental in helping young kids with staying focused through sports, staying focused to others, taking them a state to do things that some city kids don't get to experience at all. If they get to experience it at all in life, it's probably later on in life, and it's usually too late. So
Yeah.
I think the more adults, not just police, but adults, human beings, are in a position to provide mentorship and direction to young people, those that are at that crossroad in their lives, whether they're coming into contact with the police for the first time for whatever reason, versus those that are maybe had a few encounters with crime, or looking to change their lives around. I think the school system also plays a major part of that, because if kids are going to school, I think they will less likely to be offending or become criminals. I think parents, as much as things could be stressful at home for parents, I think parents need support.
Yes.
They need to spend more time with their kids, and some parents are struggling financially to provide some of the basic necessities for their kids, and that could potentially lead to kids becoming delinquent. So there's a lot of things involved in that, but I think the main focus is for adults to be more actively involved with young people and trying to steer them in the right direction.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why neighbors are also a resource for kids. I remember meeting AJ Jelani in Richmond, California, and he adopted, not actually, but he took under his wing about 28 kids in his neighborhood. And he started Christmas on the Streets, and that's how he got started. And it grew and grew. And pretty soon he had such a cohesive neighborhood that they made a sleigh at Christmas time for the kids, and they had a Santa Claus, and here comes Christmas. So this is a good time for people to think in terms of, what can we do for our neighbors this year to make it a happier Christmas for the children on the block. So they had brought food, and had a good time, and everybody got acquainted. And that's another way of reaching out into the neighborhood. So anyway, that's one way. And I'm such a big proponent because I did community crime prevention for years and years, and I saw the need for neighborhood resource people to step out of the woodwork and actually take more of a leadership role in their community. But what are we going to do at this point? Because in many areas, the fear of crime has made people back off, and they have locked up. And with COVID, we've taken a big toll here on those relationships. So what would you suggest for our neighborhoods to improve their communication and have a better relationships?
Form if you want to reach young people today, you gotta really be savvy with social media.
That's true.
And so, to the extent that you can have like a neighborhood social media account, maybe without jeopardizing your health, go visit your neighbors as often as they will let you. Offer do fun games and stuff like that. Talk to your community rec department about reaching some of these kids. A lot of recreation facilities right now, because of the pandemic, haven't really been able to attract a lot of the young people to their services, because
Right.
people are they're not doing things that they would normally do. But there's some, there's, you can, if you have the ability to do, host a fun event, like, we usually have like I have a big fire pit, so I bring all the kids out in the neighborhood. We have a campfire where we make s'mores, and we hang out and do stuff like that. So there's a lot of things that you have to be creative, and obviously because of the pandemic we're still in, you're kind of limited to what you can do. But I think that just saying hi to kids, right?
That's a good one.
Don't be afraid to say hi. Don't be afraid to talk to them, right? I mean, some kids they can be very shy. We have a couple of teenage kids high school kids that live on our block, and I've known them forever. But as years went on, they a lot grown. Their friends come around, and I'm not shy about going up and saying hi to them, see what they're doing.
Good.
They may look crazy, but I want them to know that I'm approachable. So.
Yeah, I think we all need to be a little more approachable too. I also want to ask you a question. One thing that I remember that you implemented the Operation Ceasefire. That what goes back a ways. Is that still in motion? And how did that work? Because I thought it was very successful in reducing violence. So is that still in process, or what has happened to Ceasefire?
So Ceasefire is really active right now in Oakland. Happy to say that it's evolved into a very successful program. They had some setbacks last year because part of Ceasefire is having human contact with people who are at risk or people that are heading in the wrong direction. So they weren't able to do that last year because of the pandemic. They couldn't do any call-ins. They couldn't call these guys in that were, grounds that are, causing problems in the community. So they had to take a different approach. But I believe they are still back right now, not as effective as they were, let's say, back in 2019. But since I left, they have, the department has dedicated a lot of resources to Ceasefire. We've also received some assistance from the federal government with funding for research and funding for outreach programs to help some of the people that are at risk. So I'm a big.
And how did Ceasefire work? What was the mechanism that made it work?
So Ceasefire looks at, they do analysis of a particular area, right? So if it's, let's say it's in West Oakland, they look at all the crime that's occurring there, and they analyze it to see who is causing the most crime, who's committing these offenses, right? So if it's a gang, then they will use their probation status or parole status or some coverage to bring them in to a big meeting. Okay, and you say you have 10 gang members and they're all from the same neighborhood, but they were ordered to be there because they're on probation or parole, or they have a case pending, so they have no choice. And you sit them down, you tell them, look, you guys need to stop shooting each other or shooting this person, and if you don't do that, then here's what's going to happen to you. You're going to go away we're going to violate your probation. You're going to go away for 10 years or whatever. And then let them know that you'll be watching them, and you send them back out, let them go, and then you monitor them for any kind of disruption. If they do violate the terms of the agreement, then you take swift actions, which means that you arrest them and you prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. You have the message. And then those gang members who now they are realize, okay, I can't do this anymore because if I do, I'm going to jail for a long time. They will be offered an opportunity to, one, get a legitimate job, get a move out of the neighborhood if they want to, go to school, get an education if they want to. So there's other services of them, because you can't just tell that have been involved in this lifestyle today, hey, you got to stop doing what you're doing, and not give them an alternative, because it's not
Right.
going to work, right? They're going to go, well, why am I going to stop doing that when I can do it, and I'll take my chances. But we have to say, hey, if you want to change your life around, here's some opportunities for you, right? Here's a job that pays, 15 hour, okay, and you got good benefits, or so they have all this stuff lined up in advance. Construction work, work for PG&E or whatever, so that they have an alternative. You want to go to school here? Okay, here we're going to show you how to fill out an application form, get your high school transcript, and go to your college application process. And we're going to tutor you. We're going to do all these things. So here's a computer. So and then you monitor them. You keep track of what's going on, and then you take action when it's necessary.
Well, that sounds wonderful. Now, is that happening in Chicago, for example, which they're shooting each other every other day? And it's dreadful what's happening to these young people. So is that happening in other cities?
I don't know about Chicago. I know it's happening in other California cities, Fresno, Salinas, Stockton, San Francisco. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. Richmond, California, it's happening. I don't know to what extent, but I know that it is happening in other California cities.
Well, do the California cities share information with other cities across the country, like Chicago, Atlanta, New York, so that they spread programs that are working?
Yes, so there is a network of researchers. So this, as you know, Ceasefire was a model that was started in Boston. It was started by Dr. David Kennedy. He was a researcher and a criminologist, a guy named Anthony Braga, who I believe is with John Jay College right now, and he was at Rutgers. So they did a study, and they figured out this, and they did that in Boston. And they went around the country and shared with different departments. And we were fortunate in Oakland back in, I want to say, 2007, when they approached us about doing the Ceasefire model. And our initial efforts to do that wasn't really great, lacked the resources, and it also, there were other competing things that were happening in the department. So, but we, based it various iterations. But to answer your question, yes, it is a nationally known process that started in Boston and involved community members, other nonprofit organizations, other government agencies, all working together to reduce crime and violence in their city.
With defunding the police, and which they have done in some of these communities, I don't see how they can possibly do any of these really good programs that actually help young people and kids at risk. I don't understand how they are doing that, or if they are even doing that. Do you know if other cities are actually implementing this besides the cities in California and in some of these areas where they've defunded the police? Are they helping at-risk kids, or what is going on?
I don't know what the cities are doing. If they are doing anything, it's not very well publicized. So, you have to wonder if you're there. I mean, there's a lot of places that are looking for alternative ways to address crime other than the police, but I don't have an idea of what the universe is.
Yeah. Well, we know that there's a lot of crime, and crime has gone up significantly.
Yes.
Even suicide within children, that's gone up 45% in the last year, which is mind-boggling. Kids that are harming themselves because they're not associating with other people. I don't know exactly what's going on in the home. We're spending $220 million a day on child abuse and neglect. So these kids getting locked up in abusive homes with people that are abusing them has to be horrible. So I'm hoping that we do a better job of connecting with each other, and we do some real soul searching about how we want our country to be. Do you have any final words on what you think needs to change in order for us to become a more cohesive society, a better place to live, a better place to raise our kids? What would be your suggestions at this point?
Well, if I were to say one or two things that I think could be better, is that I think everyone needs to take ownership of the thing they're able to control.
Right.
Right. So
Yeah.
leave politics out of it. You know, if you're, go that extra mile in your own community to help others, right? Whether it's volunteering to work at a not-for-profit organization, working for, doing a part of a civic do something that's going to help without wanting a kind of a reward for it. And be more personal, right?
Right.
Don't be angry at the world. There's a lot of anger out there.
A lot.
Frustration over things that you really have no control. But I think, I keep seeing these commercials. I'm really happy to see it where they show people doing kind things, human kindness.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a message that we all should take a look at in terms of our own personal responsibility to society to make society different.
I remember a picture of a little tree growing in growing in a bad spot. But the basic message is change what you can change, and also make a difference where you are. So any final words for us? Because you've been very helpful and enlightening to all of us about about police work, and we appreciate that. So any final words?
Policing is changing. It's changing a lot over the years. I mentor a lot of young people because I also teach a class at a local community college for people to become police officers. And what I tell them is, police work is cyclical. 20 years ago, a lot of things that were happening back then, the people before us couldn't fathom and ask for the better. I think that way that policing is going, the people that are the younger people, they're more analytical, they're more patient, they're much more tech savvy, and they're much more educated than police officers that were maybe in my generation. It's very verifying and very comforting to know that our profession isn't really as bad off as people would like it to. Like, there's a lot of good policing, a lot of young leaders that are very progressive and willing to hold people accountable, hold themselves accountable. And I think time it'll change, and I think with the right resources and the right leadership, departments can make an impact in protecting people and keeping them safe while making sure their officers are held accountable.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Chief Howard Jordan, for joining me today and joining all of us, because you've given us a very important message. If somebody wants to ask you a question or reach you in some way, is there some way they can reach you, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I can, my email address is, I don't know if I can type in here anywhere, but it's Howard, HOWARD, at Jordan, JORDAN, CI, as in Charles Ida.com.
Okay. Howard at jordanci.com.
Yeah, it can also go to my website at www.jordanci.com.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Howard, for joining us today.
Thank you,
Thank you because you've enlightened us so much about police work and, what we should be thinking about and how we can change our own communities and to start where we are. Start in your own neighborhood, and reach out and do something kindly for somebody else. So thank
Yes.
you. Thank you
Thank
so
you, ma'am.
much.
Take care.
Okay. You too. Bye-bye. Okay, I have an announcement. I am pleased to announce that next week our guest will be Dr. Barbara Williams. And Dr. Williams is a wonderful lady I've known and worked with for many years. And she will be talking about the, the power of the human spirit, what we can do to change ourselves and our thinking, and all kinds of good information for all of us. So join us next week at Safe Kids Now, or that's our website, safekidsnow.com. You can reach me at safekidsnow.com, and we will see you next week. Thank you for joining us.
You're listening to All About Us Radio. We're live streaming 24/7, playing old school versus new school. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at AAU Media, and visit our website www.aaumedia.com. Call us at 1-833-369-1444, extension 1, and leave us an inspirational message or request. You're listening to All About Us Radio. You're listening